Okay, starting off today, even though technically this is 8.2 log properties, I want to spend a little bit more time on making inverses. So this is y equals, and I asked the kids in class before I started the video to try number 74. So we're seeing if you did it right. Now this is going to change to x equals 5 log y, and it's really important, I can't stress this enough, if there's not a base there, put the base in, because you're only going to need it. Okay, it always comes up that you need that base. So this doesn't have a base. That means it's base 10. All right, now, in order to get this thing solved, I got to get the y alone. To get the y alone, I need to get this clump alone. This is the clump right there. Not the 5, not the -2. That clump right there needs to get alone. Then I can rewrite this equation. So the first step would have been to add 2 to both sides. X plus 2 equals 5 times log base 10 of y. I just added 2 to both sides. Now I'm going to divide by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. Why am I doing this? Because I needed to get that alone. Now that that's alone, now I can do a rewrite. Okay? So now it's 10 to that power, I know that's icky, is equal to y. And the cool thing is y is alone. That means I'm done. I got y alone. 10 to the power of x plus 2 over 5 is equal to y. It was a log. Now it's an exponential. And I've got it solved for y. I'll write that a little bit bigger. 10 to the x plus 2 over 5 is equal to y. Any questions on what I just did there? I got that clump alone. Then I did a rewrite, and then I made sure I got it all the way down so y was alone. Y equals all that. All right, could I rewrite it even further and make this into some, there's other ways you could write that. It could be 1/5 times the quantity x plus 2. That'd be another way to write it. Or I could multiply that all the way out and say 1/5 x plus 2/5 would be the power. And I know you're thinking, it's so messy, but the point was just to find y. You didn't have to like solve it and get an answer like 3. You just had to get y alone, and I did. All right. Was there another way? There actually was one other thing I could have done. When this 5 here was in front, where could I have put it according to one of those properties about, remember the thing in the front actually could be put where? Do you remember? Anybody? It can be the exponent. That could have been brought up and made an exponent on that y. Okay. Then that would have been made it into y to the 5th. All right. But then I had to get it off the y again later. You know what I mean? Like I would have had to get that y solved eventually. So what I did was an okay way to do it because I got y alone and that was my goal. Okay. What if we had to do this one? The steps generally, this is y, so we change x and y. X equals -2 -y plus 1. And again, you got to get the clump alone before you rewrite. That's the clump right there. Okay, and then, so I would subtract 1, and then I'd probably divide by -1 or multiply by -1. And then I would do a rewrite, and then log would get down, or you could get this solved for y. All right, why don't you try that one? Take it from there and just finish it. Trying to get the y alone. So I just subtracted 1. Now I'm going to get rid of this negative right here by multiplying both sides by a negative. Multiplying by a negative makes this negative and this positive. Another way to say it is it reverses them and it becomes 1 minus x. That's the same thing as what I have here. But multiplying by -1 reverses things. And the negative is gone now because I multiplied by -1 on both sides. Now, is the y alone yet? That's what you got to keep asking yourself. Am I done yet? No, I'm trying to solve for y. If I was trying to solve for x, I would have already been done up here. Trying to solve for y. So now it's rewrite time. rewrite this as a log. Log, what would the base be? That's the only number around here at the base. So base 2. Then you go over to the other side of 1 minus x, or you could think of that as negative x plus 1. Doesn't matter. And then we wrap back around and it equals negative y. And I have to get the negative off of there. So I'm multiplying both sides by negative 1. Y is alone now. Negative log base 2 of either 1 minus x. I could just bring this down, say 1 minus x. Or I could say negative x plus 1. But that's all the argument right now. Why? Because this whole thing right here got put there. All right, so that's inverses. That's how you take a log and make it an inverse, or take an exponential and make its inverse. That's an important concept. All right, now let's go back to those properties of logs. We've covered all these properties of logs now. We've done them all, but I need to make sure you really got them. So let me give you a little bit more stumper kind of problems. So for that, I'd like to have you get together and have a partner to work with. So pausing. Okay. I'm going to pause for a minute. You and your partner talk this over. Try to figure out how to simplify that. Okay, so what did I say about ones where there was no base? It would end up being all about that base. So what is the base in this case? What's the ln stand for? Log base what? Log base e. So I'm going to replace this with log base e. Then do you remember that property that if this and this are the same, then the answer is 5? Raise your hand if your group knew it was 5. Okay, good. Let's do another one. Pause for a second. Let me try that. All right, a couple ways you could attack it. First of all, it doesn't have a base, so it's probably going to be a big deal that this is a 10. Okay, and then once you realize that these are the same, then the answer is just that. It's negative 3. You're done. All right. Another way you could have done it is say, there's another property that says I can put this down in front, and then it would be negative 3 times all that. That's only good if you then realize that, ooh, this is actually equal to 1. Log base 10 to 10 is 1, so then 1 times negative 3 makes negative 3. Either way, the answer is negative 3. All right, another property. I'd like you to expand this expression. Write it out as a series of a whole bunch of logs. That's a thing we sometimes ask you to do, is expand this log expression. Hint, that is a divide and therefore involves subtracting of a couple logs. Try to make that into 2 logs right here. This part, make it into 2 logs, and then expand it as far as possible. Pausing while you try that. Okay, it's enough time for that one. This can be split up into log x squared minus, because divide kind of goes with minus, log y. And then this part already has a minus log x. There, I got it spread out. It's a lot more expanded than it used to be, but you'd still get it marked wrong because there's one little fine point. What makes this go just slightly wider? Slightly more expanded, yes. Yeah, that 2 on the x squared should go where? Out to the front. And I know some of you are like, why does that make it more expanded? Well, I guess the only argument that I can tell you is that all the answers are like that. You have to have these put down in front. It is slightly wider than it was before because you have a 2 in the front of your expression, and they take up more room than that exponent would have. But again, just that's part of unpacking it all the way. And if I were to pack it all back up and try to put this all into 1 log, that's kind of like the reverse question. Do you get that that could have been put together into just 1 log? That's called condensing. Before I do that, is there any questions about why this is expanded all the way? Now, it's expanded all the way And the directions are usually expand and simplify. Did somebody find a way to simplify it further? Yes. 2 log x. And that other one over here, minus a log x. And if I have 2 of them and I subtract 1 of them, I get 1 left. That's right. So then that leaves us with just log x. Log x is positive. It's not negative log x. There was 2 of them over here, subtracting off 1. 2 log x minus 1 log x makes log x minus log y. There, that's expanded and simplified. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive because you're like, well, now it's smaller than it was. Yeah, expand, but also simplify, as in put things together that can go together. Simplify it if you can. All right, now let's go back to the original problem, which was blue here. And let's say instead of saying expand that as far as you can, instead I'm going to ask you to condense it down to just 1 log. Find just a single log. Log of what? And yes, it's condense and simplify also. So if you can make stuff cancel or whatever, you should. Make it into just 1 log. Log of what? Pause while you try that. All right, this one seems to be giving people more trouble. If you want to get 2 logs down into just 1, well, first of all, you just write 1 log. And then you obviously have to have an argument and a base for that log. What are the bases that we haven't been writing but are there? Base 10s. You don't have to have that, but it doesn't hurt. And then what's the argument? That's the only thing left is what goes in there. Well, obviously it's a mix of this and this. So it's x squared over y. And then when this is a subtract, that means this is a divided by, I'm making a big fraction here, divided by x. Now, if you can't handle fractions over fractions, you're like a lot of people, because I have that in my top 20 just because a lot of people struggle with this. If you put this over 1 and then you flip and multiply them, this is going to come up and turn into 1 over x. X's are going to cancel. Some here, 1 there. Final answer, log of x over y. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Sweet. Okay. Now, I want to arrow down until, if you guys can find the file or the problem that says fix the problem. All 5 of these have been simplified incorrectly. As in, this is not the right answer to that question. This is not the right answer. This is not the right answer. Not the right answer, and not the right answer. They may have made common mistakes in those. Try to figure out what the right answers are for all 5 of those. Pause for a minute while I give those a try. Okay, so we are in the homework here. Here's what I want you to do for tonight's homework. Cross off those 3, and then I don't need challengers tonight. And cross off those 2, and that just leaves you with a few to do for homework for tonight. There is one more page, this yellow page. Yes, do that page also. And that's all I got for you for today. 3 pages of homework with a few things chopped out.